Hello YouTube and welcome back to another episode of Kelly's Rambling Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing Tetris lights. So if you haven't seen these, what they are is they're just modular stackable lights that you can put in any kind of order you want and form your own little Tetris creations. And as these little, it looks like metal but they're just plastic, as these ridges come in contact on each side with the other ridges, it lights up the light. So, there's a couple things I want to talk about today. Number one is there's two kinds to get, and if you look on the Amazon reviews, you'll see this. There is the Paladone version, which I have one of, and then there's like multiple different third-party knockoffs. There's a couple easy ways to tell which you're getting, but let me just talk about the differences really quickly. I only have one of these plugged in right now because I wanted to show the brightness and slight color difference in a darker situation. It's kind of bright right now to show that. So I will go ahead and I'll cut to a clip of that in a darker room. But real quickly, one of the biggest things that I noticed about these lights, and this happens on both of them, is they can be a little bit finicky. As you can see, this orange block isn't lit up, but if I just play with it a little bit, yeah. Now, that could be many different causes. My desk might not be perfectly flat, or other things. Your blocks might be out of alignment, like if they're slightly off and the railings aren't touching, or maybe they're dirty if there's something getting in the way of the two pieces causing the electrical continuity. But in general, just a few little taps and the whole thing can, except for the blue bar, which is what it's plugged into, the whole thing turns off. And then you kind of have to play with it to get it back to working. Now, this happens on both of these lights, but it's more finicky on the third-party ones. The Paladone ones are a little bit easier to work with. They still have the problem, but you might see some reviews where they're like, we're perfect, no problems. Well, at least not my set. My set are still a little clunky, but they are considerably better than the other. I don't know who makes this one because there's not, I'll talk about this in a second, there's not a lot of informational markings on it. So the Paladone version, which is what I have here in the background, you can see the lights up there. I used the picture. If I close that, you can't really see it, but it's Paladone Tetris lights USA, and those are the better quality ones to get, but they're not perfect. I would have been happier if these lights actually had metal ridges on them. I don't know if that would help conductivity or not, but to make them feel a little durable, they're kind of just clunky plastic as it is right now. But, for 25 or 30 bucks, you get what you pay for. They're not bad. But I would actually, seeing this is kind of cool because it's one of those things that when somebody comes over, they're like, oh, that's a cool lamp. And then you show them that you can do this. They just want to play with it for like 10 minutes. They're just like, oh, dude. And if you had more lights, they want to play with it. Now, they want to make sculptures or whatever. A quick note on that, you can combine multiple sets. As you'll see, I'm going to take the third-party red block and put it on the Paladone block. And it does light up, as you can see. But from what I've read, and I haven't quite tested this, the more of these that you add, the more power drain you get, and they'll start to get dimmer, and you can kind of see some flickering, but that's because I'm holding it. So it's recommended that if you're going to combine multiple sets, you use multiple AC adapters, and one of the reasons I don't have both of these plugged in is one, so you can see how it looks off, and two, how you can see how it looks on, because even off, it's still kind of an eye catcher. But the other reason is I've misplaced my other AC adapter. It's downstairs somewhere. I just didn't have time to find it to do this review. But I will find it when I'm comparing the two of these at night in the dark. So you can see now it's a little bit fidgety. One of the other reasons is they recommend you put the blue block on the bottom like this and then stack on top of it because you get a lot better results that way. And I'm being kind of silly and putting it on the left here for a couple of reasons. But you should be able to do that, if you want to do that. And it is possible. It just gets a little bit finicky because they're not pressed up hard against it. And this is what I'm talking about, though. All of the blocks will suffer from this. You're going to have to play with them a little bit and get them just rotated just right. But you saw I had it working in there. You can see it's kind of half power because if the connection's not strong. So that's the only negative about it. But they are really cool. A lot of times, apparently, kids will like to play with them. And yes, they are safe. I'm not getting electrocuted. You feel nothing. There's not a lot of current. This power plug, I'm going to unplug it to show you. It's just a 5-volt USB adapter. And if this cable was long enough, which it isn't, I could plug it into my computer in the background and you'd see it would power it as well. So it's only 5 volts, and I think this thing's rated at, wow. It looks like it's 1,000 milliamps. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up or not. Probably not. But that's an amp. But you know, at 5 volts in an amp, and there's not even any really conductivity pieces here, you're not gonna feel anything. You're gonna be totally safe, so don't worry about it. It's kid safe. You're not gonna electrocute yourself or anything like that. That being said, don't play with them around water, because I don't know what happens if you start introducing water to the mix or something. But just touching these does nothing. You're not gonna get shocked or anything like that, because like I say, these aren't even metal. This is just plastic painted a chrome color. I believe that you can see those. Can you see those? I don't know if you can see it, but there's like inside there. I believe that's what's picking up the power, is those little blocks. But I could be wrong. I don't really know how these work fully. They're very simple though. So now let's get down to the differences. Aside from the color difference that you're gonna see when I show these at night, which is, it's kind of minor. There's not a huge color differential between the lights. I was gonna put this up top there, but I can't. But it the Paladone ones are just a little bit more, I guess, vibrant in their color. Not day and night, but they're just a little more. When I compare them side by side, it kind of looks like maybe the third-party ones used just a hair less plastic than these guys did, and I think that's twofold. I also believe that the LED lights in this one are just a little bit brighter. They are positioned in some of the same places, but they're a little bit brighter. Let me actually go ahead and plug this one in real quick, just, you know, because I'm sure somebody's wondering. You're not gonna notice it. There it is. You're not gonna notice it like day and night, but you know, you can see it. This is a little more white than it is blue. So, you know, there's that. I'm gonna face it the wrong way, and that's gonna bring up another point. But you can see it's just not quite as right, and it's more finicky than the Paladone one, and you'll see this more in the video where I'm showing them at night. Or in the dark. It's just a little bit more finicky. Let's push this over. They do all work, I swear. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. The other thing is, and this is the biggest thing, this is why I would recommend the Paladone, especially if it's only a few bucks more, is that with the third-party one, the blocks have to be oriented a certain way to get power. You can see that this green one's kind of lighting. Well, the red one's working pretty good. So you can see that this red one is working up here. But if I turn it this way, it doesn't turn on. It has to be oriented a specific way. They didn't put in the extra circuitry to allow it to be reversed, which is pretty stupid if you're making something like Tetris lights. Sure, you can do some things, but if you wanted to take this red guy, you can see he works, again it's picky, and you wanted to put him like this, well, that's not gonna work. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that would work. I mean, hang on here. I gotta be official on this. This should work. Yeah, okay. But if you wanted to do this, that's not gonna work. And it's because you can't reverse them. Now, I think the block might be reversible because it's just a square. I forget, or maybe I opened it up and I tried to make it reversible and I couldn't. But they obviously cheaped out on making a reverse flow thing circuitry in there to allow it to be reversible. And in my opinion, that's kind of important for Tetris lights, because somebody's going to come over and they're going to play with it and they're going to turn it around and go, it's not lighting up. And you're going to tell them and they're going to go, oh, that kind of sucks. You don't want that. But, you know, if you don't care, if you're just going to give them to your like little 3-year-old and he doesn't care if one doesn't light up, you could go with the cheaper ones. I wouldn't recommend it, because after playing with them for a while, I was severely disappointed, you know, that I couldn't reverse blocks. And you see I can do this, and it works just great. On the Paladone, it works just great. But I think even if I take this block and put it here, is it reversible? Let's see. It's not. As you can see, my hand's in the way, I know, but it's pretty much the only block that's not lighting up. So it's indicative of their blocks. It's not just their blue block. You know, you're thinking maybe, well, maybe if I fix that, it'll fix all. No, it's their blocks. They chose to go cheaper, and that's what happens when you make a clone product, is you pay less money so that you can make more money. But all I can attest to is the Paladone version I have, and all the third parties, they might vary. You might be able to find a third party that's almost as good as the Paladone, but I think the Paladone is the better one to get. If you're gonna buy them, spend the extra bucks, make sure it's the Paladone. I don't have the boxes anymore, so I can't really show you that, but there's pictures on Amazon. I just wanted to talk about that briefly. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this, and let's talk about one of the ways you can tell if you have the real one or the fake one. I'm gonna hold this up, and we're gonna see if this works. My camera may not focus. If you can see, there's a Tetris logo there, and there's a bunch of other good stuff there, like copyright, and it might even say Paladone on here. It does. It says Paladone right there. Again, I don't know if my camera can focus on this, but it says Tetris in 1985, 2012. Official Tetris product is a pretty good one. Also on the side, there's something that appears to be like a serial number, which is pretty cool. Whenever a company puts serial number on their products, it means they care to some extent. And there's like there's some warning on the bottom. This device, blah blah blah, probably kill you if you live in California because California thinks everything kills you. I don't know, but that is the official blue block from, or the power brick if you want to call it, from the Paladone. Now let's look at the other one. You can see here on the back, there's pretty much nothing with the exception of a little bit of writing right there. And all that really is for domestic use only, class 2 input, 5 volt AC, 500 milliamps. And a little chart to show which size adapter you need to plug in there. As you can see, there's no serial number on this side or this side. There's no sticker on the bottom. They did the least amount of work they could to make this thing legal or legit, and that is printing the power regulation stuff on the back. I should also point out that this plug that plugs into it, it's kind of a small size, so it's not something you can easily go and replace. I was kind of hoping, because they give you this like paltry little, I don't know, 2-foot cord, or maybe that's 3 feet. It's about a yardstick, and it's just not very long. You know, like I say, I couldn't reach it to the back of my computer back there. It would be nice to have something longer. And sure, you could buy a USB extender cable, but I'd like to just buy, you know, one of these that's a little bit longer. So if I want to keep one plugged into my computer and one downstairs, I don't have to constantly move it around. I'm not sure if you might be able to find something like this somewhere, or just a regular one of these that's a plug that doesn't use USB at all. But in my short lookings, I have not found anything easily. So it's a little bit of a bummer they didn't go with a more standardized size for the socket, but it's okay. And that is the same on the Paladone as well. Or is it Paladone? I don't know. It's the same size. This plug obviously works with both. So it's not a gripe against the knockoffs necessarily, it's just a gripe in general. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at how these two look in a dark room situation, so you can compare and you can see if there's a color difference, if it's worth it or not. Okay, here we are in a darker situation to show the color differences between the two blocks. On the right, we have the official Paladone blocks with the Tetris logo and all that, and on the left is the third-party ones. The first thing you'll notice is that these are not as bright up towards the top, and I think that's another indication of kind of how cheaply they're made. If you watch, when I push down on top of them, they get a little bit brighter. They do flicker, and they are just more finicky to use. These are a little better. I mean, these will flicker too if you tap the case I have them sitting on. But to me, these are more evenly lit, bright, and consistent. These, they fade as they get up, and it's not the blocks themselves, because if I take this green block, you know, and I just set it up here, I got to put it the other way, you can see that it's pretty bright, and it's similar in color, but they're not exactly the same. But before I kind of demonstrate that, I just wanted to show that it isn't the block's fault. It's just the way that it distributes power. So I'll turn off the lights, but I'll see what I'm doing now. I'll hold them down like this to kind of give you a better indication of how the two look in the dark, and that way, so this forces the connection to be much better and for them to light up a little more. So let me turn off the lights. And now I'm pushing down on those on the left, and you can just kind of see, the color differences. In my opinion, I'm sorry, when I say left, it's your right. In my opinion, the ones on your right, they're a little more washed out. They're not quite as deep of a color. It's not like a huge difference, but if I just let go, this block on the far right here for you guys, it's more of a pinkish purple, and it's hard to just kind of make the big difference between the two of these. I mean, there is a color difference there, but over here, this is a vibrant pink, and this is a purple, and you can totally see it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take this L block from over here, the one that I feel is not as pink, and that's going to fall over. So I'm going to set that down, but I just wanted to put this L block on here, the other way around, to show you just a direct comparison. Hopefully that's picking it up.
the bottom block is here that I'm pointing at is obviously the Paladone, and the top one above it is the third party. But you can see the color difference. They're not quite equal colored blocks, and that's not a big deal. But I just feel that the Paladone blocks on your left over here, they're just a little bit more vivid, a little brighter. And when I say brighter, I mean overall brightness. I don't mean the hotspot of the LED. These are just finicky to get working. The Paladone are much easier. Granted, they will, you'll see me do this, and they'll do this to you as much, but they just are the same way, but just not as much. And these are just a little more finicky. But the colors just on the knockoffs over here, it just looks more like washed out. Like you can kind of see the flaring of the LED a little more. And on the Paladones, the color is just more even, and it's just a little more colorful. It just feels nicer as a nightlight. This just feels kind of like a cheap knockoff, because that's what it is. Let me just go ahead and turn the lights back on one last time for you. And this block is just not having it, but I'll hold them down. So yeah, there you go. These are the knockoffs on this side and the Paladone on that side. And I still think that they just have a little bit better color to them, and they're just much more evenly lit, which makes the effect that much better when you look at it. When you just leave them sitting and you kind of have this, it's kind of anemic. You just look over and it's like, oh, you got kind of a interesting Tetris light. Is it broken? And you look at this one, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like you want to go play with it. So the wow factor is a little more for the Paladone. All right, let's head back to the rest of the review.
Okay, so as you can see, in my opinion, these are just a little bit more colorful. I think the plastic's a little bit thicker on these, and they probably use slightly brighter LEDs to compensate for that. It would make total sense for the knockoffs to say, well, if we use thinner plastic, we don't have to use as bright LEDs, and all of our materials will be cheaper because we'll save on plastic, we'll save on LEDs, and if we toss out that reversible thing, we can save on that too, so they can't reverse the blocks. And that's probably exactly what they did, because I think, I'm not going to check the price, but I think the Paladones are like $5 to $10 more expensive usually. So that's how they saved money, and that old adage, you get what you pay for, is true. Now, if you don't care about being able to reverse the blocks and having them light up, and you don't care it's a little bit more finicky to get them to all line up, and you don't care that the colors aren't quite as nice, you could go with the cheaper stuff. But, for me, I like the brighter colors, and I don't know if it even shows up, but you could just see this is the legit yellow and this is the knockoff yellow, and to me it looks like this is just more see-throughy. I don't know if this is coming out on the camera, but it's the same with the orange. Whoops. It's the same with the orange. This looks a little bit brighter and lighter, whereas this looks a little bit, I don't want to say darker, but just more orange, more vivid. They just went thinner on the plastic, in my opinion, and I think that's really where most of the difference is coming through there. I mean, the blue, I don't know if you can really see it, but with the blue, I can really see the difference. So, in my opinion, go with the Paladone. They're not perfect. Hang on, we got an intruder. Go with the Paladone. They're not perfect, but they are better quality, and for the few bucks you spend, if you want your lights to, just be a little more brighter, a little more colorful, and work a little easier, it's worth the extra bucks. You don't want to go with the cheap knockoffs just because they'll disappoint you every turn, and you'll be like, well, I saved $3. I can't even buy lunch with that. So if you're gonna get them, get the Paladone. They're worth the extra money. I just wish that that they were metal. As you can see here, I don't know if it shows up, but there's already a little piece of the chrome flaked off or chipped off there on the painting. It's not a big deal. I don't think it affects the connectivity, but it would have been cool if these were actually metal. And then, heck, maybe even these glass. But then we wouldn't be talking about this product. We'd be talking about a $60 product or $80 product, which maybe it exists. If you're a huge Tetris fan and you love it, maybe it exists. But if you're going to buy these, go ahead and get multiple sets even, but make sure you get them all in the same brand. If you try to buy the expensive Paladone and then mix them with these, the blocks still aren't reversible. So anyways, I wanted to do this little rundown video so you could compare the two, because when I was looking at these, I couldn't really find videos. I just saw pictures. And you know how I am. I'll call a product out. These are cheaper, flimsier, kind of crappier. But if you're on the poor and you just really want a set, I would say they're worth 10 or 15 bucks. But for 25 or 29, it's almost double the price. If these are 15 and these are 30, but it's just about worth it. Just to have the slightly better quality. Neither of them is perfect. But My vote goes to the Paladone. If you can specify to get those, get that. And with that, thank you for watching this episode of Tetris Kelly's Rambling Reviews. Now you want to go play Tetris, I know. Until the next video, I'll catch you then. Post any questions you have down in the comments. I will do my best to answer them, and I will catch you in the next review.